Hey Pete, just been watching your video, Politicians Kiss My Hairy Arse. What can I say? I'd have to agree with what your video is saying, in Queensland in particular. $74 billion of debt. Mining state, and we're in debt. Fantastic. All managed under the Labor Party. Great, fantastic. Our hospital staff haven't been paid properly since last year, and that's still been a muck-up from day one, the computer system they put in. Our hospitals running down, casualty wards being closed, Caboolture Hospital for one, triage, and the day to close it, a bloody car accident happened outside it. Fantastic, and they had to transport the injured to another hospital. Right, fantastic. And these are just little things, you know, and the sale of public assets because the Labor Party's got this state in the trouble that it's in. And now they're trying to do a firehouse sale. Great, sell off a couple of public assets that are actually paying. That's a bright move. So, oh mate. What's the analogy? It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Great news, isn't it? Fantastic. But you know what really annoyed me? Not so much annoyed me, but more like amused me, was some of these dyed-in-the-wool Labor Party supporters on your video and comments they made. I'll address that. You know, there was a couple of comments there, and one of them that caught my attention was, there was no one else to vote for. Yes, there was. They just didn't. They just choose not to vote for the other party, the Liberal Nationalists, the LNP, and that's their choice. But don't come onto YouTube or anywhere else or whatever and try and defend the Labor Party because they haven't lived up to your expectations and completely and utterly destroyed the basis of this state, you know, and we've got $74 billion debt hanging over us. Thanks a lot, Labor Party supporters. You chose that, you got it. But the rest of us have got to pay for it. And the infrastructure. Let's look at the desal plants and how we're paying for them. And they're not even switched on. There's two of them that I know of. One's down the coast and the other one's up at Wivenhoe. And neither of them has been switched on. But it costs us billions of dollars to put them in. The one up in Wivenhoe, for example. We can't use that because it'll affect the lungfish. Fantastic. And yet now I'm paying water charges and water bills, and it looks like, and I'm not the only one, of course. What is it? I paid $340 a quarter. That was the last quarter for water. And it's going to go up next year by 26%. Beginning of this year, I should say. And halfway through this, into the next financial year, it's recommended it'll go back up to another 23%. And that's what I'm going to have to pay in every other Queenslander because of the fouls up and the stuff ups of the Labor Party. Thanks a lot. You did really well there, Labor Party supporters. So try and defend that. Now, you're costing Queenslanders billions of dollars in extra charges. Utilities we can't use. Great guns, fellas, real good. Another comment was, oh, but the Liberals signed off infrastructure and public transport down in other states. And the only thing I can think of was Telstra, and that was a failure, and I admit it. But the infrastructure and the transportation down in other states was sold off by the Labor Party governments. I'll give an example. Victoria. There used to be Vic Rail. It used to service the transportation needs of Victorians. It's particularly the metropolitan region in Melbourne. It's now called Connex. Deregulate the industry, sold transport area to rail transport area to a private organisation, and they've run the guts out of it. And that was under the Labor Party in Victoria. Quite recently, and it's been in newspapers. You can get the Sydney Morning Herald online. You can see how much crap the Keneally government's going through at the moment with an inquiry and a power generation down in New South Wales. Who sold that off? Who sold that out? Labor government. But you know who's going to get stuck with the bill at the end of the day? New South Wales taxpayers. Like Victorian taxpayers down in Victoria paying for Connex. And the service is less than it should be. Up here in Queensland, we'll have our state government assets sold off. And one joker said on your video, Pete, said the Labor Party's for the working man. Well, I know quite a few working men in Queensland Railways that's not really impressed with the Labor Party at the moment. They got sold out real badly. So much for the Labor Party being for the working man. The fact remains that the majority of Labor Party politicians have never really had their hands grubby, never did work in heavy industry or anything like that, and went to universities, became solicitors and lawyers and so forth, and got tangled up with the ACTU and different organisations of the Labor Party, and are now politicians. And those same Labor Party politicians that you so admire think you're nothing more than a piece of garbage, you Labor Party supporters. You're nothing. You're just the foot soldiers. All your politicians know better for you. What's better for you? God, Bennett, you must be kidding yourselves. Do you honestly believe that the Labor Party is really looking out for you? God, how naive can you be? You're like babes in the woods. That idea that the Labor Party is for the working class, crying out loud, that went out with Gough Whitlam in 1972 when he came out and said, it's time. And Gough Whitlam was a bloody lawyer, for God's sake. You don't do much study about your own party, for God's sake. You don't even know that. God, Bennett. The old witch down in Canberra at the moment, Julia Gillard. What industry has she ever worked in? Has she ever been a blue-collar worker? Has she ever done any blue-collar jobs? No, she hasn't. She went to university, trained as a lawyer and a solicitor. Paid for by your parents. Paid for by me, an Australian taxpayer, to go to uni. Right? And this is all she's ever done. She's what they call elitist. And they're the ones that know what's good for you. Wake up to yourselves. God, Bennett.